Hello everybody, my name is Robert Gerdong, and I'm going to be giving a demo on my final project, which is a hybrid cryptographic scheme which utilizes both RSA and Blowfish. RSA in my case will use a bit size of 1024 bits, and Blowfish will use 512-bit key. Now the first thing we're doing in our project is generating the values for RSA for Bob. So these are the values that Bob has gotten, and this is his public key. Generally, you wouldn't be seeing these values that I've highlighted, but this is just for us, so we're leaving it there. Now, this is his public key, and this is all I'll need to send him a message. So the first thing we're going to do is encrypt the message that we're going to send to him. Our message here is going to be just the key. It's taken in ASCII. So we want 512 bits, so we're only going to take 64 characters, as I'm taking it in 8-bit per character. So anything more than 64 characters, I'm going to stop reading at the 64th character, and anything less, I'm going to pad with zeros. So I can just make some garbage here, and this will be our key. It will generally be that these keys are entirely deterministic, so you will get the same key if you give the same input. Now we want to input a message that we're going to send to Bob. So this is our message that Bob shall read. What we're doing here is we're converting it into binary and scrambling it, and then sending him the scrambled binary. I could convert this into ASCII, but there is a little bit of loss of data. So I have opted out of doing that and just decided to send the binary. Now we create a cipher key that we're going to use to send to Bob. So we send Bob the cipher key and our ciphertext. Now we're going to play the part of Bob here, and Bob's already done. So Bob is going to receive the cipher key and perform this calculation. Oh, excuse me. He's going to perform this calculation, and he receives this key, and this is actually the key that we used for our encryption, so the decryption there worked. Now he's going to input that key into Blowfish and generate the keys that are needed in Blowfish, and then he inputs this ciphertext, which is what we got up here. And when he decrypts the message using Blowfish, he gets, this is our message that Bob shall read, which is exactly what we sent. Now I've mentioned that I pad the input with zeros, so if I input absolutely nothing, the input is straight zeros. So you notice that this number isn't actually 0. What I'm doing is I'm inputting ASCII zeros and then converting the ASCII zeros into binary and then converting that into an integer, and that's integer's representation right there. We could also input a blank message, which I wouldn't recommend because you're wasting somebody else's time with these calculations. However, you could absolutely do that and I won't stop you. So we're going to see Bob struggling to decrypt this message right here, as he is just chipping away at a very large cipher key. That is why this operation takes so long. That cipher key is 1024 bits, so that operation there, that calculation takes some time. So he's received this ciphertext, and this is the message that he received, which is an entirely blank text, which is what we sent. So yeah, that works. So now that we've seen how this goes and what's happening in the project, with a little bit of idea of how the code is actually running, I'm going to talk about my difficulties and what took some time in doing this. So the first thing that I would ever mention in any of these projects was actually getting to use CryptoPP. That took me the longest time. It took me weeks to actually do this. And somebody on the forum post said, just download and install it properly. I didn't know how to do that, so I had to do a little bit of research. I did look at YouTube videos and watch people get it to run and work on their computer, and the steps that they took did not work for me. So I had to do a little bit of digging, and I found that there is a thing called VCPKG. And that package will actually download and install these public libraries for you by just typing in vcpkg install, and in our case it's cryptopp. So vcpkg install cryptopp will download and build the library for you. And just to get it to link to your Visual Studio, the only thing you'll need is to type in the command vcpkg integrate install. So once you do that, then you can utilize the libraries without really any effort. So that was really the hardest part. And after that, it was just a matter of understanding RSA and Blowfish. Our professor did a great job of covering RSA, and it's actually pretty simple in terms of what it's doing. So then it just came down to, what is Blowfish? I'm just going to prove that this works for case-sensitive stuff too. So what is Blowfish? And it turns out it's a 64-bit block cipher, and it's open source, so you can see everything online. It's actually very well documented. Wikipedia's got a great diagram on it, and there's also a couple of classes online that teach it and give you a good breakdown of how it's done. Personally, the hardest part of Blowfish wasn't really building the Blowfish algorithm, but it was understanding the key schedule. So understanding the key schedule was probably the hardest part for me, as Blowfish uses the Blowfish algorithm to create the key schedule. I know I misspelled Blowfish, but it just means you know this isn't scripted. But yeah, understanding the key schedule, you use Blowfish to generate the key schedule. So Blowfish will be called 521 times, and every time it's called, two values in the P box and S box are replaced. And that's why the key schedule takes a little bit of time. And since the key schedule will take some time, lower powered processors or slower limited devices will not use Blowfish because the key schedule takes some time. So yeah, you can see it right there. It sits there for a second. That's because it's running over 521 times in this project. So yeah, but once that was understood, the rest of Blowfish was very well documented. RSA was very well documented, and cryptopp was the hurdle. So that was my project. Thank you for watching. I hope you all enjoyed, and I'll see you around.